This week on the podcast, we have Dr. Katashia Kendrick joining us for some real raw and honest conversation. This is the conversation I love having with other women, where we are just honest about our experiences, where we share the light and the dark, where we really just be real with the conversations that so often we don't have, or we don't feel safe or secure to have these conversations. So, Dr. Katashia Kendrick is the founder of Dr. Katashia Wellness Collective, an empowering space for women to heal, grow, and thrive through sound therapy meditation, holistic fertility, and hormonal harmony. As a clinical pharmacist, a woman's hormone expert, integrative health practitioner, and certified sound healer, her journey reflects resilience and determination shaped by her own struggles with infertility, endometriosis, and fibroids, and the stress that comes with all of that. Through her work, Dr. Katashia empowers women and couples on their journey to parenthood while supporting women through the transitions of womanhood. Her approach focuses on three pillars: sound therapy meditation, preconception fertility coaching, and perimenopause or menopause support, with the emphasis on mental and emotional wellness. I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today and for us to have this conversation. Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. I am really looking forward to this conversation today because I think your story and how you have moved forth with your story is really powerful and impactful for so many women, because what you and I had discussed a little bit off the air here before we hit record was really about this silence that we live in, this women suffering in silence, women not talking about the things, which it's really interesting that we feel that we can't share our stories or
Right.
share our experiences, or that we have to suffer alone. Um, and I don't know where that's rooted from. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to dive in today and let's see if we can maybe unpack some of these world problems.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm truly grateful to be here and honored. So thank you for having me, Kate.
Oh, this is going to be great. Okay, so maybe let's start off with a little bit of your story, your journey, because I know women are really going to be interested in, I know I'm interested to hear more about the details of what brought you here to this point where you're working with women in this capacity.
Yes, so it all stems back from my own personal challenges, right? I always try to go back and let women know that got my period when I was 10. So I was a kid, but
Really?
10 years old. And I really thought that the heavy bleeding, the cramping, it was normal. It was normalized because that's a conversation that my mom said, oh, I had the same issue. So I went through life thinking it was normal to wear two or three pads at a time or to mess up your clothes. That's just a part of having my period. And then once I went through school missing weeks at a time because I was so sick. The cramping was unbelievable. Throwing up and all of that. Again, it was normalized. When I went to college, the same thing. And when I really truly thought something was wrong was when I was in pharmacy school, when I was actually taking my exam. I'm pretty sure some women out here, you have this really bad cramping feeling, and you know there's a blood clot that wants to fall. And this was probably around 8 o'clock in the morning. The clot did not fall until like 6 o'clock that evening, as soon as I sat down to take my exam. And when I looked down, I messed up my clothes. I messed up the seat. And I'm like, something, this is not right. And that night, I drove home. I was really trying to get out of this classroom outside so none of my classmates would know that I've had this accident. And I called my mom and I was like, something is off. I know of the heavy bleeding, the cramping, but this is weird because I literally just messed up my clothes, messed up the seat at school. So I went home and that's when I was diagnosed. I went home to Tennessee and to see my doctor, and that's when she told me I had fibroids. And I'm like, okay, whoo, there's an answer to what I was dealing with. But she said, oh, not a problem. We'll just go ahead, take those out, and everything will be done. When I look back at that, I was thinking that was it. I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. And then I'm giving you an abbreviated version, but 10 years later, I started having these symptoms again. And so I went to my doctor, a different doctor at this time, and I said, hey, I'm having these symptoms. Something is going on because no one has told me anything else about fibroids. And that's what my doctor told me. My new doctor said, oh, you have fibroids. I'm like, no, no, no. I had those taken out already. What are you talking about? And that's when the conversation started. That's when I started to try to say, you know what, let me stop and get more information. And that's when I understood that fibroids are not a one and done type of thing. They can grow back. And with the symptoms I was having for the second time, I knew I needed to have surgery. I met this guy, we were talking about marriage, and I wanted to have children. And when I decided to have that second surgery, that's when I was also diagnosed with endometriosis. Now, that's 10 years later, and it takes about 10 years for a proper diagnosis. So I'm pretty sure I had endometriosis, probably in the early stages at that time, back when I had my first surgery. But at this point, now I have stage three, excuse me, stage three endometriosis, fibroids, and my light bulb popped on. And I'm like, something, all these years, I'm thinking it's just, the things that I was doing, but I really have now a diagnosis to understand what's going on with my body. And honestly, that really kickstarted my interest in women's health. But what actually put the nail in the coffin is when I was diagnosed with infertility and I wasn't able to have my own children. That's when I knew that the pain that I was going through, sitting in silence or suffering in silence all those years, I knew that I needed to turn what I was going through to purpose, to be able to help other women understand what's going on with their bodies because I've been there and I want to be that person or just to let someone know I understand. Not saying that I went to school to understand, but I literally lived this life and I want to be able to help women to understand their bodies a little bit better. A
Yeah.
little bit better, but better.
I've had a few clients who've had fibroids, and it's no joke. Like,
No.
it is, and it's intense. I don't know. I think, at least this is my perception, like what I have heard in the media and on Instagram, like you hear so many people talking about endometriosis and PCOS, infertility, but you rarely hear anyone speak about fibroids
Mm,
and the pain that goes with fibroids. And like I've had one client, it was manageable, but the other one, it was hospitalization every month. It was
mm.
intense.
Yeah, fibroids, about 70 to 80% of women will, in his lifetime, will be diagnosed with fibroids, and it's really prevalent in Black women.
Mhm.
And when it comes to fibroids, they're just non-cancerous tumors that can grow on the inside or the outside of your uterus, and it can be really painful. I mean, debilitating, actually, where it can literally put you down on your back because of the pain, the bleeding, until you truly do have the surgery. And I had my surgery back in the early 2000s. So all the advances were around then. So I had about 40 plus fibroids removed from my body, the first surgery, and they doubled
40?
40 plus and they doubled pretty much every time. So honestly, through three surgeries, I've had almost 100 fibroids removed from my body.
Wow.
I know.
And I know like some of these conditions can be linked more so to certain cultures or
Mhm.
certain um, ethnicities.
Right.
Do we know why it affects Black women more?
I mean, just with research alone, I can say nothing is definitive, but just in the research now, it shows that, of course, we have, Black women have low vitamin D levels, and according to our skin.
Right.
So they're telling, the research states to take more vitamin D, which can help it. The green tea extract, in addition to that, is just certain things, but the research out there is there's nothing out there to say 100%, of course, why it affects more Black women than other women.
I'm wondering, and this is like going more of like the woohoo route here, is there a link to trauma? Is there a link to,
And I would never say no to that. It's a
yeah,
possibility because, diet. I mean, there's other things that's out there that, that talks about fibroids and different things, diet or trauma, all those things,
yeah.
right? But
I really do believe that trauma impacts so many of these conditions that women are faced with, right? Like
and
the first time I was really exposed to it was reading Dr. Christian Northrup's book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. And she talks about like the emotional components that go with PCOS, that go with endometriosis, and some of our holding patterns that we have with either trauma or beliefs that we've embedded now into our system, and
yeah,
how those can play into it. And I don't remember what she had said about fibroids, but I really do feel like as women, we carry so much emotional trauma, both current and ancestral,
right. Mm-hmm.
and that plays a huge role. In the work that I do, I'm particularly interested in the impacts that stress has
Mm-hmm.
on our hormones and on our ability to balance hormones, as well as how our hormones can impact our stress response. Um, and like it just blows my mind with women having to carry so much of the mental load. Women, we've we've went forth in society doing more, like of being more, but without any more help, right? So, like I
They
truly
know
believe
more, but the help is not there.
exactly. I believe that women should be able to do whatever they want to do in life. Like if they want a career, they should be able to
Of course.
be that high achieving woman.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the society hasn't set us up with the support system, and so we're carrying what our mothers and grandmothers have told us to do for to be a good girl, and then
Right.
we're also striving to prove ourselves in the world, and we're burning the f out, right? Like,
On
and
both burning that candle from both ends. So
yeah.
that's exactly what we're doing right now. And that's why practitioners like yourself to be able to help women with burnout and stress reduction, I mean, is needed more than ever now.
Mhm. So your story from fibroids did end in that you had to have a hysterectomy.
So I did have three surgeries. So I had two myomectomies, which myomectomies are the removal of the fibroids. And then
Mhm.
my last surgery, I had a hysterectomy, which ultimately at 36, never been pregnant, had a hysterectomy, and I was devastated. Um, being able to being not being able to carry my own children, it affected me dearly. At
Yeah.
that time, I could not understand. I am a believer, so I've always asked God questions and trying to understand. But I can honestly say that not being able to have children biologically, I was able to birth possibilities. To
Mhm.
be able to, I never thought I would be able to stand before anyone and to tell my story or share my story of this pain and the grief that it hurt to not be able to have my own children, but also say, you know what? I've been placed here to help you to have yours. So
Yeah.
that's why I feel like the purpose is important for me. And honestly, I never thought that there's other ways to be a mother. When I was going through my challenges with infertility, I just thought, I was narrow-minded. It's like, no, I can't be a mother. But I'm a mother. I'm a mother to my business. I'm a mother. I'm an auntie to my nieces and my nephews. And I'm mothering certain many things, and I'm appreciative of that. And being able to understand the true meaning of a nurturer is important to me. And I believe
Mhm.
that's what I am.
Yeah. I did not have a hysterectomy, but I experienced infertility for, I want to say it was almost 2+ years. Um, and I'm a high achiever. I am somebody who, when there's a problem, I will put eyes
Mhm.
on the prize and go full force. And I did all the things. And I remember there was this point in that infertility journey. It was just, I want to say 2 months before we got pregnant with my daughter, where
Mhm.
I had to look at my husband and was like, I'm done. Like, honestly, like, this is burning me out. Me trying to get to every acupuncture appointment, every specialist appointment, me trying to heal my body. And every time we were able to get pregnant, but I would have ectopic pregnancies. So then we'd have to terminate. And so then there's that deep grief of knowing that I could do it, but then it just couldn't get past a certain point and then I'd have to end it. Right. And that grief was over consuming. And I remember just saying, like, there has to be an endpoint now because I can't keep moving this way. And I know it's not the same as like that definitive hysterectomy, but I'm assuming in some ways is that it's like that closure of just like I can't live with this pain anymore. And I can keep hoping and I can keep trying to do everything that I think might possibly help with fibroids and curing this. But there's this point where you're just not even just physically exhausted, but emotionally, mentally. It becomes all
Exhausted.
consuming.
It is. And it was even prior to the hysterectomy, we were trying, right? And a piece of me died every month I got my period. And sometimes that period wouldn't even end. It'll keep going for 2 months, maybe, or I won't get a period. But a part of me died because I know we were trying to the point where the decision had to be made to have that hysterectomy. And honestly, we didn't go into the surgery thinking hysterectomy. We were praying that, everything will work out on the other side. But um, the hysterectomy was the no, like it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it took some time to really truly sit in that
Hmm.
because it was hard. The grief of knowing that it is not going to happen took some time because I can tell you now, me smiling and being able to sit here and talk to you is a blessing because I never thought I would be in a space of peace. Because before, several years back, I didn't even want to even talk to anyone, not even my
Hmm.
husband. I even told him, I gave him that hall pass to leave. This is an opportunity to divorce me.
I
And
did the same thing.
okay,
So,
so I'm not alone. So I'm letting you know, I want to be transparent. I'm like, hey, I can't give you the children that we talked about. So this is your opportunity to leave. And I'll be okay, with that. And he was like, no, I'm not doing that. But I wanted him to know, he's like, I wasn't here just for children. So that, that's a whole nother conversation. But I gave him that out because I felt like that, we associate womanhood with having children, right? And
yep.
me not being able to give him that, I felt less of a woman. Like, why are you with me? Because I'm not the woman that I thought I was. But on the
Yeah.
other side of this now, I know that's not to be true with lots of therapy and a lot
Yep.
of talk therapy for sure. It has been an amazing roller coaster because of the ups and downs, but I can say I learned so much on this journey. And I always talk about the lessons that I've learned, being able to accept the facts, which was really hard to do because the facts were I had fibroids, I have stage 3 endometriosis, and I've already had all these surgeries. I was having a hysterectomy, and I'm not having my own children, but also with that, keeping grounded in my faith and knowing that, God never forsake me, and I'm here to be able to share my story. And that's the other lesson, to be able to tell my story, to show women the peace, what peace looks like, because the peace that I have, no one gave it to me but God.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think it's really interesting because, like I just said, I gave my husband the same out, right? Because there was this deep rooted guilt of being like, you committed to this, thinking that you were going to get this, and I can't give that, and it's not fair to you. And I find it really interesting in that even if, like, yes, my fallopian tubes, they were not wanting to participate properly in your case, like there was
Maybe.
fibroids
Mhm.
right away. We as women, and I've seen this working in fertility for so long, women take on the full responsibility of infertility,
Yes.
right? Yes, you had fibroids. Yes, I had ectopic pregnancies. That's not to say that his sperm were stellar or
Right.
right? Like, but as women, and I think as the culture and as the medical systems are set up, it is really focused on the female body because we
Yeah.
carry the baby. And so then there's this deep-rooted guilt that sits there. And I think like when we started this conversation, we were talking about like the secrecy that we're all suffering in silence. And some of this is these messages that like no one ever told me that I'd be less than if I didn't have kids. But where did that come from? And that's not
Where
just a
did
me
that
thing
come from?
because you believed it too, right? And so if we
Right.
both believed it, then this is a cultural thing. And so like this is like when we talk about ancestral trauma, we talk about how women are suffering in silence. It's not just about what's happening in this moment. It's these deeper layers of this messaging that's ingrained in us that we believe that we don't deserve or that we're the broken ones, right? And we
Right.
see this so often with women's hormone health, right?
Mm.
So,
No, I'm glad you said that because I feel seen right now. Even though like I said, I'm on the other side of this, but hearing you say that, I feel seen because
mhm,
my friends or my mom or my aunts, no one can really truly understand unless they've been through it. So thank you. I wanted
you're
to say
welcome.
that.
And I'm glad this is how this is evolving out because our intention was to talk about the idea of surrendering, of, taking these hard
Mhm.
truths and then weaving them into something that's gold or potential gold. For some
Right.
women, it might not feel like potential gold yet, but we're in the works of it. But this is just it. When women come together, and I heard this before that women we heal in community, right? This is how we were designed to heal. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast not too long ago where it was talking about the nervous system and how women's nervous systems they regulate with oxytocin, which we
Mm.
get when we're in community, when we are leaning on one another, when we're sharing our grief, we're sharing our stories. And we've really been taught in the design of society right now that we shouldn't be doing that. And I know like in my ectopic journey, I didn't tell my parents that I was losing baby after baby. I didn't tell my friends. Like it was something between my husband and I just suffered silently.
Right.
And I think so many women, whether it is painful periods, going to work and just pretending like it's another Monday when it's really not another Monday. Like you
Right.
just overdosed on Tylenol 3 so that you could get through the door. That's not another Monday, but we pretend like it is because we don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable.
And we should have these uncomfortable conversations, even in the workplace,
Mhm.
because just like you said, there is days that I will cry because I had an overnight bag in my car all the time because I just didn't know when I was going to have an accident, or I kept extra ibuprofen in my bag because I just didn't know if that cramping or the pain was going to take me out, or sometimes to go in my car on my lunch break just to ball up in a knot in the back seat because I was in so much pain. And those the days that, like you said, that suffered in silence. And now that I'm able to share, I realize that, yeah, I was by myself, but I wasn't because there were so many of us doing the same things. And that's why community this is a sorority that we never thought we were being, right? But
Yes, exactly.
this is a sorority that we never thought when it comes to infertility or fibroids and endometriosis or ectopic pregnancies. It's a sorority that we in, but we can share and be able to love on each other and lift each other up. And that's what's important. Even meeting you through a course that I felt connected to you. So community is important. And meeting you and being able to talk tonight really shares that whole true meaning when it comes to community.
Yeah. And we both know from being on that infertility road
Yeah.
that I think in your 20s and your 30s, we shoulder a lot more. And if we look at the stress response in the body, we're a lot more stress resilient for many reasons in our 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
But then there is this transition period, mid 30s into our
Mhm.
40s, when we're hitting perimenopause, when we no longer want to keep the secrets, where we
No.
no longer want to shoulder it. And I think so many people, even like yourself, who go through these experiences that have been traumatic, that have been impactful, we then spin it and we're like, I'm going to take this experience and I'm no longer going to be quiet about it. I'm going to share it and I'm going to be comfortable sharing it and I'm going to transform that silence into something bigger.
Right.
And so many people are uncomfortable with perimenopausal women because we're like, this is all free game now. Everyone's
Yeah.
going to hear anything.
Nothing's off the table. Watch out.
Exactly. I'm not doing these things anymore, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you everything else that needs to go with it. Like I feel like a different woman in my 40s than I did in my early 30s when I was going through all those like topics. Where now, like I feel like my true authentic self, like that alignment can really come through. And this is a lot of the work that you're doing is working with women in this infertility journey and trying to help them come into this place of feeling empowered in their story, feeling the power of their story to catalyze it into whatever it is going to turn into.
And I believe this is where you really truly get your voice,
Mhm.
right? Because we pretty much dim that light a little bit, I believe, in our 20s and our 30s. And when we pop open those doors at 40 and perimenopause, I believe that that's when you start to shed things that no longer serve you. There could be people, there could be things, there could be places. And then perimenopause just, this light pops on and you're able to express yourself. You'll be able to tell people things that you never thought you would tell them, and being
Yep.
able to still have that softness that you love, but also have just enough of harshness to let you know that you can't mess with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I
I,
love that because this is a season of learning myself. Um,
yeah.
and I
Who
believe
are
this.
you?
Who am I? Who is Katashia? Being able to be authentic. And you just said that because I've always wanted to just be shy and not say what I truly mean. But now is an opportunity. And I don't know what happens. A light pops on at a hormone, whatever it is. But I'm in a space where I want to be able to empower other women to feel um, s- be seen and feel heard. I want that because I
Mm.
realize in this space now, if you don't speak up now, when are you going to? And the goal is now, as practitioners in this women's health space, is to be able to be that voice for the women who aren't ready to speak up yet, but also to share our stories and advocate for each other and show that this is a community or sorority that we all have each other's backs. But what's truly important for me to understand each phase of womanhood is beautiful. That yes, we had our, reproductive years, and now we're in this perimenopause space. And this is the space to still nurture not just ourselves, but also other women coming behind us.
Yeah. I think that we, this generation, are the change makers. I look at my mom and even my
Mm,
grandma's going a little bit further back, but looking at my mom, it was a lot still in the perimenopause phase of like the good wife does this. I cook all the meals. I make sure like you followed the rules that were set in the stage in the 60s and you just
we're
keep
not
doing.
following the rules anymore.
No!
We're
And
not
this
following.
is you
Your
look at the
mom sound like my
advance.
mom. No, we're not following those rules.
Yeah, there's no rules anymore. But you look at the advancements that's happening in women's health, and you listen to the people that are out there on those platforms saying, and I'm talking like big name physicians and people who have a strong voice and are changing the way here for us. Those women are all in perimenopause or the
Yes.
beginning cusp of menopause.
Mhm.
So these are the women that are like, I don't think that's the way it should be anymore, right? And we're changing it. And I'm hoping for my daughters and for the generation that's maybe a little bit older for her, the ones that are in their 20s right now, that we are that lighthouse for them, right? Like how you're talking about that I went through all of this and I want to help women find their voice.
Right.
We we are so self-assured in the experiences that we had and feel confident to say no more and to speak loudly about them that we are now showing them that silence isn't the healing path.
Right. And I truly agree with you because, like I said, being able to nurture the ones behind us, because no, I don't have daughters, but I have nieces.
Yeah.
I have nieces in their late teens and 20s. And to be able to have these conversations freely and for them to be able to come to me and ask those questions, I love that because, like you mentioned, like in our moms, yeah, they didn't say a whole lot to us about it, and it's okay. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it's a problem, but now I'm able to go to my mom and talk to her about certain things and being able not just talk to my mom and my aunts, but also the ones behind me because my goal is for everyone behind me to speak up. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
by sharing my story, even being on your podcast, being able to shine a light on being able to advocate for yourself because no one else is going to do it for you. So asking those hard questions, and if not just with your family, but also getting your family history and with your doctor, get into those doctor's appointments and ask those questions. And if your doctor does not want to answer those questions, find another doctor.
Yeah.
It's
I
okay.
heard someone say that doctors, you are a consumer with them. So
Right.
find the one that you like. It's like buying a pair of jeans. If the first pair doesn't fit, go find the one that really resonates with you.
Find
Unfortunately,
another.
there's feels like there's a lack of doctors in Canada right now. Like I feel
Oh,
like we have so many that are like not going back into that field so that it's a little bit harder, but we have
but
people like
they have practitioners like you.
yeah, a lot of practitioners, and there's a lot. I find there's a big uptick in naturopathic doctors. Like I have two friends that are naturopathic doctors, and both of them started off on the quest for medicine for to become an MD, and then halfway through was like, let's turn right and let's go ND, right? And I think so many people they don't realize that a naturopathic doctor is still they've gone to medical school. They
Right.
are a physician. They are a regulated physician. It's just they've taken a different approach to how the body works and how they want it to, how to help it heal.
And that's
And
important because we're so used to what society tell us about conventional medicine. And I was one of, I'm a pharmacist by training. So
yeah,
of course I'm thinking conventional, conventional, conventional until I hit infertility. And that's
yeah,
when I was like, wait a minute. I mean, is this really the only way to heal myself? Is this the only No. And when I started to do my own research and realized, why I didn't learn this in pharmacy school? Why didn't we talk about this? I
mhm,
dove head first into integrative health and functional medicine because I wanted to learn more because I never heard anybody around me talking about this. So that's why yes, I completed my PharmD, but I also went back to get certified in integrative health and functional medicine because I know what it did for me.
yeah,
So to be able to, I think I'm special. I'm unique because I have a foot in both worlds. I can still tell
yeah,
you about conventional medicine as well as integrative health and functional medicine. And that's what makes me unique. I'm the
yeah.
unicorn because I can give you a little bit of both because I truly want to dig deeper and be that investigative pharmacist, right? To be able to help you find a root cause of what's going on, but also answer questions if you do have questions about medication and supplements. So,
And I think there's so many people that are now on that path that are like, I want to understand both.
right.
I ended up during my fertility journey going head deep into more of the natural holistic approach because I felt like conventional was letting me down. But
Yeah.
then on the other side of it, I was like, I need to understand the conventional side. I need to understand this so I can support my clients more. So then I went into more of the approaches to understand the anatomical structure, the physiology of the body, right? And so it's really interesting. Like I did it the reverse way, but I think it just demonstrates that there isn't a right or wrong, but there is this
Right.
beautiful marriage of both that can happen
Yeah,
and that
that's
both
beautiful.
have a place.
And I
And
truly am open here to both.
I think it's also really interesting to note too, because you started off in pharmacy and then now you're moving into sound healing and supporting infertility and like creating community. And I started off in law school, but then I was like, nope. 2 years in, I was like, this is not for me. This is gonna suck all the energy out of me. I just could see my joy factor going down. So I went into social work because that seemed like the next best thing to a lawyer for being able to help people, right? To be
Mhm.
that advocate. And now I'm here talking about periods and women's bodies. But the beautiful thing is like I know like my mom always jokes about like we paid for this education and where did it get you? Right? But everything was a stepping stone. When I look at my path of becoming a social worker, it was to understand how to hold containers. It was how to like support and hear stories. And then I moved into like yoga therapy. And then it was about nervous system regulation for me. And then from there, it was going into energy healing, understanding Reiki, doing those practices, which I don't really do a much, I don't have many clients that I do Reiki on. It's like a one-off ask thing because I'm
Okay.
now more into that clinical practice. But all of these little things have been building blocks for me to be the hormone health practitioner that I am. Because when you come to me, you get little bits of my past that have led me to this place of being like, this is now what I want to do.
I love that.
And I think pharmacy, like when I hear you being a pharmacist and doing the same thing, it's like that wasn't, I don't want to say a waste because it's never a waste, but that wasn't a waste of time. That was like, that is fundamental to what makes you you as a practitioner and gives you a special little unicorn horn to,
That's what brought me here.
yeah.
Pharmacy. I started with pharmacy, and then my life
Yeah.
challenges brought me into integrative health and functional medicine, which from there brought me into looking into holistic ways of healing, which took me into sound therapy. So I believe pharmacy most definitely is the foundation to how this all started for me. But I took this winding road to get to sound therapy, the hormone health specialist, all of that started from pharmacy. And I love it all because I'm able to help women, like you said, through all phases of my life, through all phases of womanhood for them.
Yeah. One thing that you talk about is how you took the experience of not being able to birth a child. And from that, you really catalyzed, you used it to weave something where you could birth a legacy, where you could impact, where you could help women come into relationship with the story that was presenting in front of them. Whether that was what that was going to be the final outcome or not, doesn't really matter. But how they could get comfortable somewhat with their current situation. I'm gonna put it that way. I'm trying to like word it properly here, but
Okay.
um, I just feel like that's really beautiful. And I think so many women need to hear that, you know, there we all, as women, I think we all have some story, right? Even those that get pregnant really easily, there's something else later on that happens where that's part of their story, right? Maybe it's postpartum depression. Maybe it's having a very strong-willed child and you feel like your nervous system is fried and then all of a sudden your periods are all over the place. And maybe it's a really rocky perimenopause. But
Mhm.
all of us have a story and being able, I think when we speak our stories, when we're able to express what it felt like to be on our journey, that it does create this opportunity for us to create that legacy as you speak of.
And I believe that's exactly correct. I mean, I think about I'm in my 40s, knocking on 50s, and I'm like, God, why did you give me this vision later in life? And honestly, it's because of wisdom. I wasn't ready
Mhm.
for it back in my 20s and my 30s, but to be able to to handle those hard challenges that he gave me when it came to infertility, I think that's one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life.
Mhm.
Um, to be able to get through that and get on the other side and smile from it is amazing to me right now. And to be able to speak on it, to share that story, to be able to take that pain and turn it into purpose and be able to help women to get pregnant, to help women understand their bodies, to help women, like you said, understand their periods, even navigate the perimenopause, menopause space. That's amazing because some people is like, oh no, that was too hard for me and take a seat, take a seat. a backseat. But for me, I'm like, no, this is an opportunity to be able to help women. This is my opportunity to really just share what I learned, share the wisdom through those years of, my 20s and my 30s, and be able to make a major difference in these women's lives when it comes to even just understanding the importance of knowing you. It's not just you, and how important it is when you walk into a doctor's office to be able to express yourself and understand that I know my body and these are the questions that I have, and to be able to let the doctor know that you're not looking for just what's the word, confirmation really, but you're coming in to educate them and let them know where you stand on certain issues and what
Mhm.
you want to do, when it comes to pregnancy, um, endometriosis. Come in with options and be educated, and that's, I think, the main foundation here. I want to be able to do, educate women and be able to empower them to speak up. That's what's important. And at the end of the day, if someone says anything about Katashia, like you mentioned, the legacy I left behind would be impact and being
Mhm.
valuable in someone's life. And this, if I can change one person, I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm. You've changed more than one person. I can guarantee you. I'm sure people listening to this podcast are going to be like, these words are what I needed to hear, right? This is the inspiration. This is the gold that we've been talking about
Yeah.
of coming into our story and rather than feeling shame, like I think a lot of us are taught,
And we were all there, and I was there as well.
yeah,
To
rather than feeling that shame, really
hide it. Yeah.
instead seeing how beautiful or the beauty that lies in that experience, even in the difficult ones.
The
And
difficult experiences the difficult experiences truly do, you really see their roles rise from the concrete, because those are the times where like me, I look back and say, oh, wow, I made it through that storm. And that storm now is a beautiful rainbow to be able to help other people, to even pull them so they can come through that storm and see the rainbow that I see on the other side. So this is what it's all about for me, is giving back and helping.
there's still so much more, right? Like
Oh,
there's
this is just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even hit, and this is just very tip of the iceberg. Just imagine your daughters, your niece, my nieces, that's going to come behind us. I mean, I pray that this is something they continue to advocate for. I mean, be on Capitol Hill fighting for women's health, whatever it is. I hope it doesn't stop here. I hope that they see what we're doing now and continue to fight and speak up, because that's important.
yeah. Well, and I look at my daughters and we come from a very period positive home where we talk about there's I'm in my 40s. We hold nothing back. So I
I'm
share
with
it all.
you. I said I'm knocking on 50. I am 47.
But my daughter the other day she was in a health class and we've always spoke very highly of periods and the superpowers that it is to be a
How old are
woman.
your daughters?
One's 11 and one is 9.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she came home and she's like, I'm actually a little scared now of getting my period. And I was like, what are we teaching in schools to put this fear in you? Because you didn't have this yesterday, right? And so, like, even the education that we're putting forth, like, can we change the
Mm,
language? Can we teach girls about how important and powerful it is versus trying to shut it down, right?
right.
Or run from it? I think there's so much
My
power here.
My best friend, I was talking to her just today, and she said she was in a meeting and a provider came in and gave a presentation about infertility and her practice. And she said the men in the room, probably 40s, 50s, and she was talking about periods. And she said all the men were so uncomfortable. And she was like, are we still doing this now? And it's funny that now you're saying your daughter came home thinking now, okay, kind of nervous about getting her period. It's like we must normalize this, because
Mhm.
we're so, it's a secret. It's a
Yeah.
secret. It's a secret. And that's how I grew up. It was a secret, but we must, my goal is to be able to work with tweens,
Yeah.
11 and 9-year-olds to be able to educate them about periods. I understand what they get in school, but to have, special classes on the outside of that to be able to have open conversations so when they do leave, they feel empowered. Because I hate that. I know your daughter, you I'm pretty sure you've taught her all the things she needs to know, but to come home and get something from school, that's where it needs to start then. Maybe we should be
Yeah.
teaching health educators about periods and not making it a bad thing. This
Yeah.
is just a part of life. It's just a part of womanhood that we all should embrace.
Yeah.
Not just girls, but boys to men.
There, a friend of mine, she lives in Wales and she goes into schools and talks about, and she's got had many contracts now, is she's become known for it, of going into
Okay.
schools and talking about it. And it started off with just talking to the girls alone about like more of like that cycle awareness kind of power. Like these are the four phases of your cycle, and this is like how they shift and change and how you get to change and bringing some excitement to it. It got to the point where boys were so curious that now she holds a girls one and then she holds a boys one where she teaches the exact same content but to boys so that they can ask their questions about girls periods and bodies and so forth without that, the both sexes being in the same room and kind of like how everyone can get off topic or feel uncomfortable.
I
But
love
instead
that.
really lace thread. But she does everything with them. They learn about tampons, they learn about pads, they learn about all the things, the same lecture that the girls get. And she says it's been fantastic in teaching these little boys that are, I can't remember what grade it is now. I want to say it's like 10, 11-year-olds about girls' bodies in this more empowered way. Because I think that's where it starts. I have a 5-year-old, well, I guess he's 6 now. Sorry, he just turned 6 this week. 6-year-old boy
Okay.
who he knows about it. He's curious about it. He's not afraid of it. Like he totally understands what a period is, and he understands that I'm four different people. Like today, he was like, "You're in your yellow days," which means ovulation. I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "So I can give you lots of hugs." I'm like, "Today,
Oh,
yes. Today, yes, you can." So,
I love
but
that.
understanding boundaries. And I think like this is where we have to change the dialogue so that women, when they do, as teens, they have an outlet to talk about it. And then as they go into their 20s or reproducing years, that they have a voice there as well. Like their voice starts young and it builds. And I think that that's the first step. And that's going to be what catalyzes perimenopause and everything of changing in these big transformational moments.
I love that.
So as we wrap up here, because we're at almost time here, I always like to end these calls with like a womb tip. And by womb tip, I just mean like a way for women to connect with their bodies, a way for them to find healing or to find a source of embodiment for them to connect. Do you have a womb-led tip that you would like to give? Your little secret hack of like, this is the secret that every woman needs to do to come into deeper relationship with their body.
You mentioned it earlier, and I must say it again. Sound therapy meditation has been my secret hack. People are thinking sound therapy. Sound therapy, when it comes to crystal bowls, like a sound bath, with different instruments such as a rain stick or an ocean drum, to be able to unplug. Because you hear everyone talks about stress reduction, but no one's really truly telling you, stress reduction. I'm truly meaning if you're going through infertility, if you are um, going through perimenopause, menopause, any phase of womanhood, sound therapy meditation could be an awesome hack to take that time to relax, to unplug, and allow the sound just go through your body. And because we're all what ball, big ball of energy, right? To release the very first sound bath I went to was during infertility, and that was the first time I truly had sleep in years. And the release and the crying that I did, I needed that. And I believe it's an opportunity to just relax, to
Mhm.
shut your brain off, and to be able to close your eyes and just let the vibrations take you to another space. So to be able to do that once a month, once a week would be really nice. That'd be ideal. But to find someone who is a really good sound therapy practitioner where you're able to relax, to improve your sleep, to lower your blood pressure, just to do all the things that you never think you can do throughout your week because we're so overstimulated. I think that would be the best hack you can do for yourself, sound therapy, and find a really great practitioner that can do that, take you there. And I love that. And that's why I got certified in it because it truly changed my life.
I love sound therapy. It always amazes me, more so in person than online,
Oh, yes, that in
of
person for sure.
when you hear whatever it is, like my spine, how I get like those little tinglies.
Tingles.
It feels like it's just like a vibration. The rain stick, that one's like a big one for me all the time. Like that one, it's just like I get like,
The ocean drum is
yeah.
by far my favorite because even if you just had a rough day, I keep closing my eyes because I can feel it.
Hmm.
The ocean drum just takes me to the beach and literally just listening to the waves crash against the shore, it just takes me to another space and it's amazing. So in-person sound therapy, sound bath experience would be that's my best hack for sure. And to be for women who I've been in a space where you're trying to get pregnant or and you can't relax. Like you mentioned acupuncture, but sound therapy is a way to relax to get you some really good sleep because now you're stressed because you got to go, okay, it's time to get it in. But no, this is an opportunity to relax. And I think everyone should experience it at least once.
Yeah. Sound therapy is amazing. I
It's
do not know
amazing.
how to do it, but I love attending it.
Oh
So
yeah. So I love it and I know how to do it.
I will tell you what is not sound therapy is your 9-year-old daughter learning how to play the recorder for the first time. That's
No,
been
that's
happening this
no,
week in
that's
our house.
no,
I'm
that's
just
not
like,
sound therapy.
can we put the recorder away? I
No,
cannot listen anymore to Little Lamb or whatever song it
no.
is that she's trying to
Yeah,
play.
little
It's
lamb. No, that is not sound therapy. That's
not
high
as much.
level stress.
Yes. Well, Katasha, it's been so good having you on here. Like I have loved this conversation, and I really hope that women listening it that this is kind of like the girlfriend conversation. It's like curl up on the chair with a blanket, fireplace going, and like lay it all out kind of conversation. It has been so good, and thank you so much for being vulnerable with your story and sharing it. I know that it's not always easy, but like I've witnessed within you already in this conversation of how you've went within that pain and then you've come out and have built a life that is and a body of work that is really impactful for women. So I thank you for your vulnerability and for the work you're doing.
Oh,
And I
thank you so
highly
much.
recommend women to go and seek you out and to search. And if you're in the area, go for a sound bath.
Yes, so thank you so much for having me. You can check me out on social media at Dr. Katashia on Instagram or Dr. Katashia Wellness Collective with a K on Facebook or my website at drkatashia.com. And if you're in Houston, Texas, check me out, maybe doing a sound bath that weekend.
And I'll have all of Katashia's information in the show notes. So if you are like, I didn't write that down quick enough, don't worry, just go to the show notes. Everything will be there. And yes, definitely go seek her out.
But thank you so much for having me, Kate.
Are you excited about aligning to your cycle? If so, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and like the episode if it really resonated with you. Until next time, remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired.